So Walter, what made you want to bring home such a heavy tree when you saw this?
That's a good question. I actually brought it home from Maurer Stenberger. He brought it down from the mountain. What made him bring it down? Well, at that time, I think the truth is probably that he thought Walter will take this beast, which exactly I did. Okay, so why would I take this beast and then bring it home here? Because I've had this feeling that this is the most extraordinary spruce, maybe probably of all of them. I have quite a few extraordinary ones, but this is the most extreme one. And there is three subjects which are extremely interesting. First, why is it so fat and has this enormous sort of taper? That's number one. Number two is, how did I style this crown from one single branch? Not so normal, not so simple. And then the combination of this tree with this enormous big artificial stone. Okay, all these three issues are very important. And then let's start with, why is it so thick? Well, because it's very, very old and it sits on one place for a very long time. So my sort of educated guess is 300 years, maybe 500, which in Europe is very, very old. In America, that's not so much. I mean, 500 years is easy. 1,000 years, that's where the fun starts. Here we don't have that. So anyway, it's very old. And then, so it's not so important how old exactly, very old. And it grew in one place where it could not really grow much roots, not much top, but somehow it survived, and with very, very little root pad, this enormous tree survived, because probably it was moist there all the time, maybe next to a waterfall or in the half shade, I don't know. But anyway, it was sitting sort of on a rock, and when I got it, it had a very flat, it had no root ball. As you see, this tree has practically no nebori, and it is even underneath. So the horticulture thing is, why can a tree survive like this with almost no roots? Well, it can. Spruces can, as long as it's moist. And if you know that, you can also place them on very small stones. And I had him on a smaller stone a few weeks ago. It looked pretty cool, but now I put him on this stone and it looks dramatic. Wow, much better. So the combination really made a big, big difference. I think this combination with that enormous trunk and that big, big stone makes the trunk look a bit sort of not too fat. Every good thing has a point of no return where it gets worse. So a thicker trunk is better, but at one point it's just too thick. Now, if you have this big, big stone, all of the trunk doesn't look all that big anymore. So I think that's very important. And then if you see the tree is slightly leaning like that, and before it was standing upright. Why? Because of the roots. However, on a rock you can lean the tree, and it looks okay, because with the rock it's a natural setting. If I put it like this in a pot, this part would stand up in there. So this is for what a rock or a stone is good for. On the other hand, it gives this natural feeling together with the tree, especially with some moss here and some plants. I know that there's too many of these succulents, but these are basically here for instead of chaeto. You know, chaeto is therefore to make sure that the substrate doesn't wash off. Well, I just plug these things in there, do the same job, but looks nice, okay? Then you say, Walter, but they are nice, but too many. I know that, but that's easy to hack them out. 5 minutes, they're done, okay? So, but it will happen by itself. One day they will get less and less, and moss will get more. Now, the other thing is that there's only one branch, and that's this here. And that was sort of sticking out like this. And that was to foresee that to bring it down and then build a crown, which, if I wouldn't tell you, is a good-looking spruce crown, I would say. But it's from one branch, and that at that time, when I did it, that was very unusual. So unheard of, okay? So anyway, that's the only thing that I could see that I could do. And I'm very happy that I did it. And then I let it grow, and I leave the trees a lot alone and let them grow and grow and grow, because it's good for the tree. Trees don't like it to always be cut back, especially such an old tree. So I trimmed it a bit on the top and let it grow here. And then about 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was way too dense. Contrary to deciduous trees, this is why they're called deciduous trees, they shed foliage. This will never shed foliage. So with a maple you can say now it looks dense, but when the foliage is off it looks good. Now this must look with foliage. And now I discovered a new sort of technique, which is I took out some branches which were too much, but very, very important good branches, but I didn't remove them totally. I just chinned them here and here and here and here, and made the crown much lighter, with the effect that all of a sudden you can see into the top. Contrary to the book, I leave some front branches because I think front branches are very natural. However, they should be positioned so that you can still see the trunk, the structure of the tree. And now you have this crown which is just the right size, I think, which makes the trunk look very thick but not too thick, and the whole thing on this artificial stone, in my eyes, is a very, very good combination. I'm very happy, fortunate to be able to get these, and these were more or less designed on my order, because normally you get these flat things which you call slab. I don't call this a slab, this is an artificial stone, and you see why, because it's not flat anymore. But then the difficulty is for commercial reasons they don't do these, because who would buy these? Well, maybe after this video they will. But you must have the right tree and the right thing. One thing, you maybe also speaking about rocks, we have all learned how to pick a pot. You have this crown of a tree. You make sure the crown has a certain length. The pot maybe should be good at 2/3 of that length, and maybe just about a bit shorter than the width of the trunk, and that's the right size pot. So the right size stone would be like this. Now here, and with stones, I sort of discovered that it looks very good the other way. That you see the crown a certain width, and the crown is 3/3, and the rock is full. You see, so this is why way outside the crown, the rock is here, and way outside on the other side, and that makes the tree look standing up like that. However, you need a very, very important looking tree, otherwise it looks so silly. He stands there thinking how cool he is, but he isn't. So I'm very, very happy about this combination. It's still very immature. It's only 3 weeks old. Okay.
When you're teaching people how to work with collected material and all of the foliage is at the top from a single branch, how do you guide students through the process of whether or not they bring branches down or how far to bring them down?
Styling crowns is basically what we do when we do bonsai. We decide about the placement of branches, we decide about the size of the crown, we wire them. So we work all day on the crown. So people think, oh, I have learned how to do bonsai, I can wire. No, wire is not good enough. The setting is important. Okay, I can set, and then, oh, I can do crowns, I can do bonsai. No, the crown is not there for itself. The crown is there for the trunk. So the big thing is the trunk. That's what it's all around. And the crown is only there to serve the trunk. Okay, and so, but there's not an awful lot we can work here. So that's why you carefully pick a trunk that's already pretty cool, because it's not going to be much better whatever you do. Okay, so a very good looking trunk, and then we can somehow create a crown, even from one single branch. And the crown must look like it belongs to that tree. Whatever you do, it must look like not somebody put the branch there and bent it well, but sometimes you say, oh, nature is the best artist. I'm sorry, that's me, but not nature, but thank you very much anyway. Okay, so this is how I go about. And then you have one trunk, one branch, and then people have learned in the books is you have this sort of informal upright, nebari, wonderful taper. The first branch is 1/3 here, second here, then the back branch. Where's the first branch? The first branch was up here. So we redefine that sort of bonsai law and say, no, the first foliage should be at 1/3. So we bend it all the way down, all the way down. So the foliage is right here, and the foliage builds this sort of almost triangular or egg-shaped sort of crown. And the foliage is in that position where you have learned the first branch should be. The first branch should be about at 1/3, should be here. Okay, this is where the foliage is. And then have this a bit higher and have some back branching. You can bend that down and put the branches anywhere. And that's a technique that I call modern bonsai. That was not used in orthodox bonsai. Until about 1980 or so, nobody would do that, also in Japan. And then came Kimura and others, and that dramatically changed the world, and that's what I call modern bonsai. And in modern bonsai, you do that. You have a trunk, and then place the branches wherever you like, so that the trunk looks good. And all of a sudden, that looks very different, very dramatic. Of course, it can be overdone, and then it looks a bit too dramatic. This is just dramatic itself because it's so thick already. So there's no use of, in addition, having a lot more deadwood. So that would be silly, I would think.
And when you grow a branch that starts at the top and comes down so low, are there any technical considerations to developing or keeping those branches healthy?
Yes, very much so. Because technically you just bend it down with some whatever, so that's easy. But whether the tree will like that or not, and then you have to know what species you're working with. Now you have to know, for example, let's take America, they use a lot of ponderosas, and the ponderosa is very similar a bit as our black pine, looks the same, has very long needles, is a very light loving tree, and the tree that always grows upwards and sheds branches which are down in the shade. So if you have a ponderosa, wire that branch and put it down, and so you bet in 20 years that branch will be dead. So they just don't like that. Thanks God, spruce are not like that. A natural spruce does look like that because of the snow, and so it's prepared for that. So spruces don't mind if you have it here. Junipers don't mind. Okay, so you have to know what trees. I would not do it with a pine tree so much, but with a spruce you can get away with that.
Do you think it'll be many more years before the design radically changes, or do you see it pretty much staying like this for long term?
I think it's as it should be. Only a bit more mature landscaping here, and maybe I have to clip these back a bit, but that's about it. So people will say, "Yeah, Walter, now you want this to butt back, and then you have this cloud here." So, no, that's not what I want, because trees like that don't have that. It's a bonsai invention, okay? Because Japanese white pines happen to grow like that, so not everything has to look like a Japanese white pine. So this is as loose as it can be and should be. I dare to say I could still cut out 20% and it will look okay. And when it gets thicker, I will cut it out again. So the future is here. This is it. This is more or less finished.
Awesome. Thank you so much.